Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
The last time we discussed the uh, isoquant curve, and also we proved that diminishing the marginal rate using the isoquant curve, when you just to look at the isoquant curve has a negative slope. The slope what we discussed the MRTS. So how do you find the MRTS? Marginal productivity of labor divided by the marginal productivity of capital. That's what we discussed last time. And this negative slope imply that the diminishing marginal return that we proved last time. Now, in terms of producers, what we discussed from the beginning deal with two things. One is either minimization, which means the minimize costing, subject to considered as the constraint given amount of output. Given amount of output. For example, if you look at the isocost curve, this is what we call isocost curve. So the last time we introduced, that reflect the cost side, this part. So then the producers try to minimize this cost. Let's say this is the 200. So they try to produce given amount of, let's say, 80 unit. Is good. If you look at this is possible here, A and also B, but the producers attempt to produce minimum cost. So in that way, for example, like somewhere here, let's say the $50, can't do that because the not enough money. Ultimately, they settle down. So somewhere here, the minimum point, their producers, maybe the budget use the $100. So it's a tangent point where the slope of the isoquant curve equal slope of the isocost curve. Now, from the beginning, what we discussed the isoquant curve, like here, the reflect the technical efficiency or technological efficiency, which means wherever producer take the decision, maybe the combination of input, for instance, A, B, C, all the point producers are technologically efficient. It doesn't mean that the producers, for instance, use like capital 8, labor 2, or B point like capital 6, labor 3, like that. Whatever the point on the line, on the ISO1 isoquant line, producers are efficient in terms of technological. We call technological efficiency. But ultimately, they try to reach the economically efficient point. There we need the allocative efficiency. Allocative efficiency happen along the isocost curve. Now, given amount of budget, let's say the $100 budget, whatever the combination like isoquant curve, producers decide to use, let's say, X, Y, Z, any point, decide to buy, for instance, from K 10 unit, from L 2 unit, likewise here from K 6 unit, let's say L 5 unit. So inside this, along the line, isocost curve, producers are efficient in terms of allocation. Allocative efficiency is there. Now you can see the both reach at this point, like I mark here, point A, the tangent point, isocost curve and isoquant curve. Now there, the slope of the isocost curve, which is the input price ratio, WOR, equal to slope of the isocost curve, that is the MRT, marginal rate of technical substitution. Now you can see this is the optimization, optimal condition. In again, the one-way producers try to minimize cost. Given amount of output, they reach the economically efficient point A. There these conditions satisfied. So there the optimization happen. There the producers use number of labors, let's say L star amount of, and number of capital, A star amount of capital. That exactly happening producers at the equilibrium point. That is the optimal point. No any other point. Now, for example, here point A1 is also possible, but only the technologically efficiency happen. For that, the producers has to move down little and reach to point A. They are only satisfied. Now, this is the one-way producers may think, try to minimize cost given budget. The producers either minimize cost or they try to maximize output. Maybe that is the second way, maximization. Some producers may think of maximize output, but there are something like this. Let's say isoquant, somewhere here like 80, iso product. And one, let's say 100. Like all everywhere, isoquant curve here, let's say 300, 200. Producers in this case try to move to this direction. I mean, always maximize the output, but the small problem there, the budget is constrained. Given amount of budget is given. Now, certain amount of money is allocated every week. With that money, producers tries to maximize production. In that case, let's say this budget is given. Let's say $200. Now, let's say your management as a production division given the target. That is the amount with this week has to expend. Then the producers, the management try to use this money and produce maximum amount. In that way, the optimal point here reached, you can see the point again. They are also, like previous case, ultimately what happened, producers get the condition input price ratio equal to marginal rate of technical substitution, which is the slope of the isoquant curve. And somewhere point, for instance, like point B also, it happened, but they are only qualitative efficiency, not technologically efficiency happen. Something like if you compare, for instance, private firms and the government institute, government firm. Maybe they use point B using $200, they may produce 8. Maybe the others commissioned or whatever, or inefficiency, take allocate the inefficiency, they do that. But the optimal rational producers using 200, they produce 100. They can't go for 200 because they know enough budget. So in that way, they had to stop at this point A, and produce 100. So any firm produce point B, which is economically inefficient, though the K2 efficiency there, which means the 200 is spent, but produce 80. You can imagine there are some firms, business firms, even especially the government firms, do so. What I try to say, either producers or managers try to maximize output subject to or given cost, given budget allocation, or producers try to minimize, like previous case, minimize cost given output. Both the producers reach the same point, but which is called economically efficient point. The condition satisfy input price ratio equal marginal rate of technical substitution, that is the slope of the isoquant curve. Now, with the exam now, I can give a question. For instance, I can give a production function like this, let's say 2L, here let's say 0.3, let's say 0.8. Now, with this production function, I can give it in the exam. The cost is, let's say, $200. Wage rate, the market wage rate is already given, let's say $2. The price of capital also, let's say $5. With this information, you should be able to find the optimal amount of the labor and the optimal amount of capital use. Now, with this information, you can see if cost is given, you have to go for the maximization problem. The short method, you can look at this condition. This is what we call first order condition. You can find the MRPs, you can find the price ratio. With that, you can find the L and K, because the cost equation, cost curve is given. Cost curve is given. So for example, 200 minus W2 L plus R is 5K. Now, solving these two equation number 1 come from here, number 2 come from here. You can find answers. And second part of the question I may ask too, with this situation, optimal amount of output the firm can be produced, which means I'm asking the value of this isoquant curve. Value of this isoquant curve. This kind of questions you practice, and the past papers also there. And if you have any questions, you can contact me, or I think you have done mathematics, this kind of thing, you can do that. And so, yeah. Now again, the third part of the question. Sorry. Third part of the questions. I can ask, for instance, let's say the budget originally I gave you 200. I may ask you what would happen if the budget dropped by $50. Whatever the reason, the budget cut by $50. Now 150. With 150, so this is the original situation. This is the original point A. You can find the amount of output. And this is 200 budget. If budget dropped 150, you have to draw the curves also when you do the calculation. Then how many units you could produce? Definitely output drop by a certain amount. And you should answer this. And the new labor demand, and new capital demand also. That also I can ask. And maybe the fourth question, it is related to that. Now this is the original situation. You have done already found those answers. Here 200. I gave you W $2 and R originally $5. I may ask the question, if due to strike or some other reason, wage rate increase, let's say by another $2, then new wage rate become $4. Then what will happen? So then you have to do the same calculation, use the WR, MRTS, And that's the first equation. Second equation with new budget line. With this, you can sort it out. If someone was not in the last week, because last week only 7 people came, 7 students, I gave marks also. The MRTS you can find directly. I today also mentioned MPL, the marginal product of labor divided by the marginal product of capital. So the marginal product of labor production function, if you differentiate with respect, last week I teach you the differentiation rules also, you get the marginal product of labor. Similarly, if you differentiate with respect A, you get the marginal product of capital, like that. Now, my question is here, the new scenario, which means the wage rate has increased, then what happened, the budget iso cost line rotate clockwise, like here, new budget line with the WT. So the producers can't reach the original amount of output, the optimal level. They may reach to new isocon curve. So there are new amount of labor and the capital. You can see, and the output also new. So you should be able to find all the answers. After that, I may ask, because though wage rate increase, if you have a firm, you have to produce the same amount, because the market already set, let's say the original amount. Let's say original amount is Q1. I may ask the question still, if you want to produce a Q1 amount, let's say amount I put here 150 unit, that is the market demand, and you already settled down. After wage rate decrease, how much additional budget you need to produce the original amount. After wage rate increase up to 4, now the production is somewhere 2. But still you have to supply same amount because you set the market, established. Then your management had to increase the budget. So I asked the question, by how, with that this budget line, you have to shift until I did not come. Yeah. The original settle down somewhere point B. Not the original point like point A, not the, from A1, A2, B point. So there are the new labor recruitment, new capital recruitment you need, and additional budget from here, budget line to this budget line shift you have to find. So that must be the one of the exam questions. I hope you understood. If you did not understand, you can ask me any question. Now, the other thing, second one I discussed with you, maximization. Maximize output given labor and given That is the one, sorry, that is the one we didn't. Other one, what we studied, minimization, minimize budget given amount of output. At the end of the day, you have to produce certain amount of output. That way also you reach the same economic efficient point for execution here. Now, given amount of output, that one given, let's say 100,000. Now, they are trying, like I explained, produce the minimum budget. That is the point here. That is the point here. For example, in the exam, I may give the output function here. Imagine I give the output function like T, L. You can practice those things before the exam. This kind of output function. But here, not like previous case, amount of output given. You have to produce the 100. And the W, of course, the market available rate is $2. Or let's say $3. $3. Now here, what we have to find the minimum budget. Now, for instance, we don't know still. They also apply the same condition, what we call, if you use the direct method, WR divide MRTS. And that is become the first equation. In the second equation become, in this case, the output, because the output is the one given. Now output is 100 equal P L K 0 and 5. This is the second equation. Solving this to L and K, which means the how many number of laborers you recruit, optimal level, how many number of capital you recruit, optimal level, you get the answer. So after that, you find the minimum budget here, the size of cost curve. Because if you find the L and K, you can find the cost. So that becomes the cost. So also I can ask question. The second part of the question I can ask, let's say the market demand has been increased, so in maybe predicted to increase next week, and instead of 100, now the firm, the management has decided to produce 150. Let's say the new year or coming or something. So reach to 150. Then 150 somewhere here. 150. I may ask additional budget. Additional budget. And also like previous case, if you W or 10. So may also I can ask questions. Whatever the way I ask question, each and every case you have to draw the graphs and you have to show me. Otherwise, even some calculation you made mistake, If the graph is correct, I may give full marks. So that's the thing. Any questions? Anything? Okay. Look like no questions. Now, what we did, minimization and maximization. For that, we can get the minimum value cost function. That is the modern method, what we use to derive the minimum value cost function and maximum value profit function. So there, let's say we start with the minimization. Before that, I forgot one thing. So the given price ratio equal to marginal rate of technical substitution as the first equation. The optimal point here is, so if you start with this point, what I call as the direct method, so get this point in the mathematically starting point, for instance, if you start with the minimization, if you start the minimization, the objective is minimize budget. There's constraint there, that is what we call subject to given amount of output. Let's say, example, the production function. Now like that. Now here, if you have a single equation, we can do the optimization, but with the constraint you can't do, then you have to develop another equation, what we call in the mathematics Lagrangian equation. So first write the objective function. Then add the constraint. So you have to use the lambda as a symbol at the constraint. That equation, what we call a Lagrangian equation. In the exam, if I asked you the Lagrangian method, you can see the later on in the short method is the middle of this method, this we start. Now, if I ask specifically use the Lagrangian, you have to write this equation. For there, you get the 2 marks. Now we have single equation. The single equation, you have, you know, W because it's the market, R also you know, amount of output also you know. Unknown thing, how many number of labors you don't know, how many number of capital recruit the optimal level you don't know, and the lambda, what we call here as the shadow price, that also you don't know. Then what we have to do as a first order condition, you have to differentiate this Lagrangian equation. The differentiation rules I taught last week with respect to this unknown variable. The labor, all the unknown, in the capital, then lambda. So when you differentiate the first time, that all you know the first differentiation is any equation, if you draw, that is the slope. The optimal point, either minimization or maximization, in this case minimization, the optimal point, the slope becomes 0. Even the minimum point, if you look at this optimal point, slope becomes 0. Maximization also, slope becomes 0. After differentiate, then you have to set them equal to 0. There you get the optimal result. So that's the purpose. The best order condition, optimization, the slope must be 0. Now, when you differentiate now with respect L, W is constant, then become W minus here also L. When you differentiate here, come in lambda FL, which means this is the first equation. Second equation with differentiate capital, there you get the R minus lambda here K. Is apply the K rule because here lambda and then become.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah.
have you shared the screen? Sir, we can't see anything.
You can see?
Yes, sir.
Oh, very good. Now, you can share.
I
Can't
think,
see.
sir, part we couldn't see, sir. I was thinking it's on my aspect, so I just realized.
What about others?
Same,
Yes,
sir.
sir. We didn't see things.
Why you didn't tell us? So, but now I see again. I can't see now.
Now we can see.
So which means all the thing you did not see.
Yes, sir, only the first graph we saw.
And you are, I can't believe that, like a master student. You listen just to, I always do. Now, again, from the beginning, how can I do all of them? Now, so many things I did. Right. So I shared, I don't know what happened anyway. Now with that, we get the second equation. So I can maybe only both of you listen. Otherwise, nobody asked me. Before that, but I shared, I don't know what happened. Now, if you can see now. So the Lagrangian method, sort of condition, the first equation you get that way. And the second equation with respect to K, you get that. And the third equation with lambda, then you get the Q minus LK. Now you can see the three equation in first order condition. Now here, like last week I explained, this FL mean the marginal product of labor. Here K mean marginal product of capital. Now look at if the equation number 1 divide by the equation number 2, and what you get the answer, W divide R equal marginal product of labor divided by the marginal product of capital. So you remember, this is the MRTS. So what you get here, W divide R equal MRTS. That is the point why I start as a direct method, this point. That's the first equation. Yeah, the second equation comes from this third equation here to equal this one, second equation. previously. If I go back like here, you can see MRPS equal the price ratio, and the second equation, that's what we call direct method. So now I explain the method, how it originates, and the roots, and what we call Lagrangian method. Now again, if I ask to use the Lagrangian method specifically, otherwise you can directly come to these two equations, you can sort it out. Then you have to write this Lagrangian equation. So there you get 2 marks. And the first order condition 3 equation, there you get the 3 marks. Then you have to find the answer. So that is the way. I hope now you can see. Sorry. Again, I open new blank slide. Can you see it?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay, great. Now that's what the minimization. Another method, what I discussed is the maximization. Producers try to maximize output. Given budget is the same thing. Now their objective is the maximize output. The amount of output we don't know, they try to maximize output. Now they are subject to given cost. That is given. There also you can see two equation, objective function and the constraint here. If the single equation, like somewhere you can find the optimal point, but here two equation in that way. That way also you have to develop the Lagrangian equation. The first write objective function. Then merge the W L minus K, the constraint. Now this is what we call Lagrangian equation. There you get the 2 marks. Right in this problem, objective function and constraint, also you get 2 marks, right? Now here also, when you look at this Lagrangian equation, new one, here the cost, you know, waste rate, you know, R also you know, that is the mark. Unknown, the labor, capital, Lagrangian. Like previous case, stored a condition, you have to differentiate this with respect to labor, with respect to capital, with respect to lambda. Again, the first differentiation slope becomes the optimal point, then reset equal to 0. We get the equation. Now, when you differentiate here with respect to production function, you get the marginal product of labor minus here, this minus become plus again. So this has to be, yeah. So this minus, of course, here minus, this become plus. And lambda W. Here, when you differentiate with respect to A, it's become marginal product of capital lambda R. The equation C minus WL minus T. Now, this equation, like the previous case, if you equation number 1 divided by the equation number 2, you get the condition W equal R equal, so W divided by R equal FL divided by FK. So this part, the MR case, that is the direct method we start W R MR case. So the direct method we start this point. That upon this point 3. Now here the Lagrangian method I teach you and maximization. If you write this problem here, you get 2 marks. Write the Lagrangian equation, you get 1 mark. First order condition you write, you get 3 marks. And the rest of the mark can you solve and get the answers and find how many number of labors, how many number of capital, like that. Okay. Now I'm going to get another. Now you can see that I opened another empty or blank white paper. Now in the exam, let's say I can give, like in the previous case, for instance, output function, say 5 L K, like that. Then I can give you the cost. I'm giving this, you practice, then exam also most probably I give the same thing. This is the $300. Or let's say $10. W, let's say $4. Then, like using Lagrangian method, try to get the answer. Here, the cost is given. So you have to do the maximization. Your objective become maximize output. So here, and there you can reach that point. Do it and the second part of the question, do after the lecture, maybe if the budget cut by $100, the new budget, say, now after cut 200. You find the same thing and how many unit output produced, the Q2, Q1. That also you have to find. Third part, since the budget wage rate increase or decrease, whatever, let's say this case, the wage rate increase by $1. Now with 5, you can find the same thing and you have to draw the new situation also. That way I can ask question. This is about the maximization question, or I may give information because you have to think of what the minimization or maximization is. like for example, production function, let's say N L K. Here I may give the amount of output at the end of the day you decide to produce. Your management has given the target. And the W, say 5, R, let's say 6. So they are also using Lagrangian method, try to find the answers like previous case, all the things, and try to do that. I hope you can do that. The exam questions may come like that. And important thing is all the question when you do like I did here, you have to draw and show me the graphically the changes, get the full marks. Okay. I hope now you can see what I am doing. Now, there how to derive input demand function input demand function. It means the labor, the capital demand function, maximum value function, and the minimum value function. If you look at the previous past papers, minimum value function. So I'm going to do right now. Yeah, we have enough time. What does mean this if I start the minimum value function? Now producers like now we discuss the optimal point. For instance, let's say the budget line you have, and you have the isoquant curve. Point A is the optimal point. Now, expansion mean from go to this direction, the long run, which means the increase the budget, let's say reach to new budget line, isocost line, C2. With that, the producer can reach to the isoquant line, say 2. I put the numbers, say output, let's say 200. Originally here, let's say 80. Like that. If you want to further expand firm, which means increase the budget, and output also definitely should be able to increase. QT, let's say 300. So you can see the producers move along optimal point from A to B to C. So that's the line the producers move. It's a orange line. That line what we call expansion path. Expansion path. So you can see that along this line, the expansion path produces minimum value constant data. Minimum cost value. Any other path, for example, if I draw another path here, let me see. Yeah, somewhere like this, black. It's not the minimum value because it not go through the optimal, the minimum value. If you get if you know some of you a little bit about the cost curve, let's say the marginal cost curve, it decides of the minimum or the expansion path. What we are going to generate now or derive the minimum value function, which means that this along this movement, minimum value cost function. If you draw cost here, so get the minimum value cost function is 1, but we try to approach it. The maximum value function also I will explain what it is a little bit later. When you do so, the amount of input we demand, you can see the along this line, capital N, L1, L2, L3. This is the L1 is 10 labors, L2 is the 20 labors, L3 is, let's say, 25 labors. So if a single firm, if you look at this is labor demand, given wage rate. So you see the firm labor demand function. Similarly, the capital demand function also we can derive what we call input demand function. So that's how we derive the input. Now, the practically, if you are a PhD student here, even the masters, if you estimate the production function or cost function, really you estimate minimum value cost function. Why? Because the producers technically produce this optimal point. When you collect the data, it has to be this amount of labor, this one. Now, reality, you may ask the question, this not happen because of inefficiency. That's what we have to estimate the stochastic production frontier, where inefficiency component also. The econometrics, you might learn how to do that and that one. Now, I'll start with the minimum value cost function. Let me, I open another blank paper. Here, what I try to do, derive the minimum value cost function. Mathematics, you might have learned how to derive the minimum value function and the maximum value function. When you come to the microeconomics, we call it the minimum value function, cost function. Maximum value function also I will take it later on. It's use the maximum value, basically the profit function. Here, the objective, the producer try to, like I explained before, minimize cost. Minimize cost. Objective, that is the constraint, the output. So this we generate the minimum value cost function. Now here, to understand its output function, they will give you the functional form, very simple function. This is in general, say the exam you get the Q equal estimated output function like LK. So in the exam you make it like that. With that, I will do that. Then you can understand clearly. And since I have limited time, I can't go both ways. Now you have to develop Lagrangian equation. First, write the objective function. Same thing, of course, last time we did Lagrangian. So here the constraint, and using this lambda, we at the constraint, any number of constraint you add, but the microeconomics very theory, this I take only one constraint, maybe the macroeconomics you have learned, adding many constraints, especially the monetary policies and things when you learn, or budgetary policies. And so this is the Lagrangian equation. Now, like previously, what we did, we need optimal point, first order condition. First order condition. There we differentiate unknown or decision variable, what we call unknown or decision. We have to decide how many number of labors at the minimum point, how many number of capital, and this also we call shadow price, and that also we have to decide. And now differentiate Lagrangian with respect L, same thing like we did before, with respect capital, with respect lambda. At the optimal level, we set them equal to 0 because we are looking at the optimal point in the first order condition is the slope of the curves and raise to that point. There we obtain three equation. You can see that every year either minimum value cost function or maximum value profit function I ask you to derive. Here try to get the minimum value cost function. Now when you differentiate, you can see that with respect to L, you get the W here. Here also L, then you get the minus lambda L. When you differentiate with respect to K, you get the R. Here also K, then the lambda K. When you differentiate with respect to lambda, you can get the Q minus L K. Now look at the second equation. For instance, if you divide the first equation by the second equation, you can get the W divided by R here. I make the small mistake, but here this must be K, because when you differentiate with respect L, this become K, this become L. Sorry. Then the K divided by L. Sorry. This equation number 4. Now this equation number 4 you can rewrite if you want W L equal RK, and then the L equal R W A. Equation number 4 you can rewrite, and this equation into equation number 3 instead of R L here, then you can find the A star. That's what we call, you get the function of Q, W, and R. You do it. That is the capital demand function. Indirect capital demand function is minimization. Similarly, you can derive the L, L hat since the minimization. There also you get the function of Q, R, and W. That is what you call indirect labor demand function. Now, when you do these two, A hat, L hat, these are indirect input demand function. they you get the L hat. When you derive, you get the real now values, function of A hat also. This slide. You take them in the cost equation, you get the minimum value cost function. There I get the W, L star. The equation what you derive, you can put here, plus R A hat, whatever the equation. This is what we call minimum value cost function. The optimal value demand function here, lay band, what you derive here. So these two equation, you can get that value and you can do that. Now, here another things what we call in the exam also I give from this you can differentiate with respect W and R, because this L also come in with a variable U, W and R. When you differentiate respect parameters here, W and R, when you differentiate the minimum value cost function with respect W, you get the labor demand function. When you differentiate the minimum value cost function with respect R, you get the minimum value input demand function. This exercise, what we call Shepard lemma. Shepard lemma. Shepard lemma. So that is what we call Shepard lemma. So that exercise we call Shepard lemma. So there you get the again. In the exam paper, you can look at previous exam paper, past papers. I asked to derive Shepard lemma. Hope you understood. And this exercise, this continue with this exercise given the output function here. You get the real value to labor and capital. Then find the minimum value cost function and do the Shepard lemma, and you can do the question very easy. Okay. And the other thing, I try to derive the maximum value. You see just maximum value function. In the mathematics also, which we call, but in case of economics, microeconomics, we call here the maximum value profit function. Why I use profit rather maximum value output function? Because the producers try to maximize profit. when they try to maximize profit, automatically reach the optimal point, what we discussed, the output maximization. That happened directly. But the producers target the profit maximization. They get maximum profit function. Now, you know the profit is P, Q minus C. Now, P is the market given. You know that P is given. Now, if you write the profit function right now, straightforward, P, let's say I can give a very simple production function, LK. Next time I can give a different form. Now, the Q is equal to LK here, minus C, that is the constant. Cost is, you know, the W, L, minus. So this is the directly, there's no constraint here. The previous one, we got the constraint minimization. There you need the Lagrangian. Here no need Lagrangian because directly you get the profit function, one equation. Now here it's very easy to optimal point, optimal profit, what you have to do, the first order condition. First order condition. Differentiate with respect labor, because that is unknown, and the capital, all the other things we know. Market price we know, labor rate we know, R also we know. Then when you differentiate with respect answer, we get the P, K minus W. We know the optimal point is become 0. And then differentiate with respect A. There I get the P, L, R. There it is very easy. You can find the A and L. Those are we call input demand function. For the optimization, we get the input demand function. When you take this input demand function, plug into the profit equation, you can get the maximum value profit function. Maximum value profit function. So what we have the P. Now L, that is the L star, input demand, K star, minus W, L, minus R, K. Now what we get, L equal WOP, K equal what we get at the optimal point, R equal P. Now we can get the maximum value profit function is a function of W, R, P. You can see when you estimate in the real data, you know the wage rate, you know the capital price, you know the market price. But you collect those information, you know the profit, you can estimate this one. That's what you are really doing. Then here P, list term in W P list R minus here the W L WP here R. Now here you can get the maximum. We simplify, you get the maximum profit function. With that maximum profit function, if you differentiate with expect, I'll take the next one. If you differentiate with respect parameters, what are the respect parameters? You get the W, R, and P. The maximum profit function. You get the labor input demand function. Originally, what you get the with respect R, you get the capital input demand function. With respect Q, P, you get the amount of production or supply function. Those are function of all of them are W, R, and P. Output. See, when you estimate the maximum profit function, you can get the output or supply function also. These three. This exercise using the maximum value profit function, when you do this exercise, what we call quarterly lemma. Quarterly lemma. Now, what in the previous case, minimization, minimum value cost function, you differentiate, you get the Shepherd lemma. Here, the maximum profit function, when you differentiate parameters, what we call Hotelling lemma. These two terms, Hotelling is the person who did, Shepherd is the same. Is directly mathematical concept. Whatever the maximum value function, if you differentiate with this parameter, what we call Hotelling lemma. Here, the maximum value profit function, when you differentiate, for instance, they say that you practically estimate the profit function. Then you differentiate with respect to wages, you can derive the labor demand function. So, because the labor demand function, practically you can't, labor input demand function. You can't estimate it. When you differentiate your profit function with respect to R, you can get the capital input demand function. When your profit function, if you differentiate with respect to P, you get your firm's supply function or output function. That exercise, what we call Hotelling lemma. Hotelling lemma. Now, I ask you to look at the past papers. I always ask either derive the minimum value cost function, the maximum value profit function, whatever things I ask, and through the Shepherd lemma or Hotelling lemma. The production function I used to give Q. Sometime I used to give production function like this. So with those you can practice, or maybe both can practice the minimum value cost function and the maximum value profit function. The separate lemma, protein lemma, things you can practice in the exam. The either one I will give you. So I think you have to do this exercise, then you will understand. And sorry for you didn't tell me from the beginning what I say, you did not see. And so with that, I must probably stop this theory of production side. Next week, come to the little cost understanding, cost curve, and move to the market structure. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Right now, we have enough time. And or maybe we don't understand as a group, you have to do. At least one or two questions come from today lessons for the final exam. Your assignment, I found that some of you submit even the very late. So don't do that, because if I take them and I give each day the -1 or 2, and ultimately you don't get any marks. If you don't submit on time, that's the big issue. This is not individual. If a group assignment, if someone's sick, someone has a problem, others can do that. With that, I'll stop. If you have still any questions, please ask me. Otherwise, you can leave the meeting. Thank you very much. Okay. Look at now question.
Sir, can
Yeah.
we have this PPT, sir?
This one I did not say. Let me see whether I say when I can share with you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
But I share with the production lessons PowerPoint presentation. There, everything there. You can look at.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thanks. Bye.